Good afternoon, everyone. So there's a skill missing in our education system, a skill that nobody formally teaches us, not in schools, not in colleges, and not through institutions, and not through people who love us the most. A skill that defines our whole adulthood. We are taught how to achieve, how to succeed, how to work hard, and how to hold on. But one skill that's the most important is missing: the courage to walk away. It matters more than we realize, because walking away is often considered a failure, but in reality, it's just an act of discernment. It is recognizing when emotions turn into erosion and commitment turns into self-abandonment. Over time, I learned something uncomfortable yet clarifying: that choosing yourself may make you seem unreasonable in someone else's story, but in reality, it's the first step towards self-liberation. This idea quietly challenges something we have been conditioned to believe: that being a good person means adjusting endlessly, trying harder, and staying longer, even if the cost is internal and invisible. Most people hold on because they're afraid, not because they are resilient. They're afraid of judgment, afraid of losing control, afraid of uncertainty. But beneath all these lies a deeper concern. They're afraid of being perceived as the one who gave up. This creates a quiet pattern. We start staying in places which emotionally drains us, not because it feels correct, but because leaving that feels socially incorrect. Since childhood, we have been rewarded for compliance, for being agreeable, for being dependable, for fitting into roles that seem familiar to others, even if it starts being dishonest to our own selves. Walking away is often considered a dramatic event, but in reality, it's a slow, gradual process. It starts with a grief about something we hoped we would become. Then we start losing our identity to a role that no longer fits. We build walls around us of endurance and exhaustion. We create boundaries. Slowly moving on, we start accepting the fact that what once mattered is no longer aligning to what we had become. Finally, reorientation, shifting our attention towards something more meaningful, towards something that will drive us more. It's about moving on. It's about making the correct choices at the correct junction of life. My lesson of walking away did not happen in adulthood. It happened when I was 14. I was a cricket lover, a kind of love that every local game felt significant. I had no access to formal coaching or fancy gears. One day, I went for my school trials, and to my surprise, I got selected. Not only selected, I became the opening batsman. I went on to play matches, I won tournaments, and cricket felt like a destiny, a direction of life. But circumstances didn't meet my passion. My family had financial constraints, and formal coaching was not possible for me. I had to choose between stability and passion. I chose stability. The ending was not dramatic. It was quiet and a realization that life was not going to unfold here. That day, I learned an important lesson: that walking away is not quitting. It's just the acceptance of reality without resentment. As I grew older, expectations expanded. When you are academically driven, assumptions form quickly about you, about your career, about stability, and about how success should look like. Following everyone, I was following a socially respectable path. I was preparing for my competitive exams. My routines were in place, my plans were sorted, and I had my discipline. But what I lacked was alignment. One evening, I was sitting in my desk with my books open when I realized I was investing energy into something that no longer returned meaning. That was a moment of truth for me. We often glorify persistence but overlook clarity. The realization was quiet and honest. Stepping away from a socially respectable path may seem unsettling, but staying in a path that steadily diminishes your sense of self carries a different cost. Later, moving on to a new city reinforced this idea. Starting over strips away familiarity. It exposes you to fear. It forces recalibration. Moreover, it shows you versions of yourselves you never knew existed. And it gives you space to observe who you are when expectations loosens its grip. There is a reason why this choice feels uncomfortable. Walking away does not provide all the answers. It provides room, and within that room, perspective returns. Prioritizing internal stability over external expectations often disrupt narratives others have constructed about you. And this disruption is often considered selfishness. But in reality, it's just self-awareness. Our cultural stories capture this idea very well. Most of our familiar characters don't struggle because they lack ambition. They struggle within themselves because they are expected to meet their inherited expectations. The moment of release doesn't come from rebellion. It comes from clarity and alignment. What these narratives reflect has always been felt by us at some point of our lives. We have been quiet and acceptance. But moving on and growing will require you to disappoint some people. Walking away changes people in subtle but long-lasting ways. It sharpens judgment, it restores direction, it gives clarity. Performance reduces, but authenticity increases. But what it does the most is expose us to our real selves. We come to know about who we are. Across studies of human discipline, it has been found one pattern remains consistent. Acceptance is the key, and attachment to outcomes with no returns creates strain, while awareness creates movement. Walking away is not erasing the past, it's preventing the past from controlling the present. Many of us sitting here today are maybe holding on to something that once made sense but no longer does. A role, a friendship, a responsibility, a relationship, or a direction, or even a version of ourselves that once existed but no longer does. It's okay to choose yourselves. Walking away does not mean the end of an effort. It means redirection of it. So, the idea I leave with you is simple. Walking away is not abandonment of responsibility. It is recognizing when responsibility has shifted inwards. It's choosing yourselves and keeping your ideas above all, and it's being clear to our own selves. Sometimes, the most constructive decision a person can make is not to try harder, but to let go and walk away. Thank you.